And now I'll make you the host again. Do you want to change the host to Samantha?
Yes, please. Because
Okay.
she's going to be the one with the PowerPoint.
Okay, you're the host. And
Okay.
we can.
All right. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yep.
I can see it.
Okay. So just let me know when to switch to the next slide, and we'll go from there.
Okay, Donella, we'll let you get started.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so, all right, our PowerPoint slide, we're doing Toyota Let's Go Places, and we've got a list of our members' names, and you can go to the next slide. So I will begin by just giving a little bit of an introduction and background about Toyota. So in September 1st, 1923, there was a great earthquake that devastated Tokyo and surrounding areas, and it caused widespread damage throughout the region. And guys, please forgive me if I pronounce these names wrong because I did look them up, but it was called the Kanto earthquake. And what happened during the earthquake was there was a large amount of fires that broke out. The roads were damaged. Railroad, which is one of their main transportations, was damaged during that time. So during that time also fires had burned. So they burnt down a lot of buildings, offices. Everything was really, really in ruins. And the fires burned for about 2 days. So the only thing that during that time that was left was really the only people that had like transportation for us, the cars and trucks, which were very limited. That is what they had to use to rebuild and start to redevelop that area that was so much that had devastated. The earthquake had devastated that area. So just a little fun fact that I added in my notes, this earthquake was so huge that it says that the great Buddha statue, which weighs about 121 tons, was moved during this earthquake about 60 centimeters because of the force and the power of the earthquake. During this time, there's a young man, and his name is Koichiro Toyota. He was a young man that had experienced the earthquake, that saw the devastation and understood that transportation needs would have to change. So understanding those issues, he was also the son of an inventor. So you can go to the next slide. So, okay, so thank you. So Koichiro Toyota, the son or of a founder of Toyota Automatic Loom Works in Japan, started a specific division that was focused on producing automobiles. So he thought about this 10 years after, well, he was thinking about it all along, but 10 years after, he took part of his father's loom company and had just a portion sectioned off to create and try to manufacture automobiles, because he actually had it before this actually came about. He was able to see some of the automobiles that were in the western parts of the country, like the U.S., because just a little background, Ford had already produced cars way before he had ever decided or had that idea in mind, and he liked what he saw, and having that tenacity like his father, he decided that he wanted to look at developing and creating and manufacturing cars. So after he tried to do this a while, in 1935, he was successful with the first G1 truck. and the AA car, which is a passenger car. So these pictures kind of show you what they look like. So in 1933, he was trying and trying. He failed several times, but he did have the support of his community in there to help him, and he developed the G1 and the AA car. These cars are closely modeled after some of the Western civilization like Ford and some other companies back in that time. So 2 years later, in 1937, they created or came up with Toyota Motor Company Limited. So you can go to that next slide, please. So once they started to actually manufacture this, they had another impact. World War II, which is around 1945, and it wrecked the facility, and it caused a lot of damage. Economic forced the Toyota to temporarily suspend its production. So in about 45 to maybe 49 or so, they were not able to produce any cars at all due to the devastation of the World War II. And then by 1950, the automotive production factories were back in operation. And then Toyota began to further study America's auto manufacturing, and they toured forward. And you can go to this next slide. So in 1950, Toyota Motors ended a 2-month labor dispute. And in this particular labor dispute, Kiichiro was actually the president, and he was upset about things that were going on as far as the labor, and he actually resigned in 1950, and there was, I guess, a close friend of his that picked up and became president over the Toyota company for that time period. And then in 1952, which we don't have on our slide, he ended up passing away, but he was thinking about coming back on as president of the company, but he passed away before he could actually do that. In 1952 is when he passed, and he was about 57 years old. And they affectionately kind of named him the Japan's Thomas Edison. So as we move forward in 1960, the Quality Control Committee began studying countermeasures. So as they began to study and develop this in 1961, the total quality control was introduced. So this quality control was heightened awareness of quality, cost improvements, enhancement planning, and ensuring a smooth production startup, and develop close cooperation with Toyota Motor Sales. So one of the things I found unique about this as well is during this time, they were challenging not just the higher ups, the managers, to think about this total quality control, but everybody that was within the company that was producing, and they wanted to connect with sales as well to look at quality, cost improvement, and to really plan and think about the things they could do to make Toyota better. In 1963, the Kanban method was adopted, and you can go to the next slide. So in this adoption of taking this principle on, there was 5 principles for Toyota that they strive to get everyone within the organization to live by and try to work by. So these principles are written out here, and it's always be faithful to your duty, therefore contributing to the company and the overall good. Always be studious and creative, striving to stay ahead of the times. Always be practical and avoid frivolousness. Always strive to build a home-like atmosphere at work that is warm and friendly. And always have respect for spiritual matters, and remember to be grateful at all times. And when I think about these principles, what stood out to me the most is always strive to build a home-like atmosphere to where your work is warm and friendly. So I do like these principles, and they still, as we go on through the slides, you will notice that some of these principles are kind of mentioned, maybe reworded in a different way. So you can go to the next slide. So as time went on, they had a major turnaround for Toyota. So in 1973, there was an oil crisis that began about October 1973, when members of an organization of the Arab petroleum exporting countries proclaimed an oil embargo. And they targeted nations. And this was the reason why they were doing this, is because they did not like that they were supporting Israel during a, forgive me, Yom Kippur War. And the initial nations that were targeted, they had Canada, Japan, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, and United States. So during this time in 1973 in the U.S., you will notice that there was gas shortage, there were extremely long lines, and most Americans had those larger vehicles that we normally would call gas guzzlers, and they were spending a lot of money on gas, and gas was very, very limited. And a lot of stations ran out, or they had I want to say, I don't know what they called it, but it's like a lottery where certain people could go and get gas on specific days. And I did have a picture, we didn't put it in the slide, of these extremely long lines. So during that time, Toyota actually gained an advantage because they were introducing a more fuel efficient car to address those issues. Toyota sold almost 556,000 of the Cressidas, and this actually really gave them a leg up in the industry, because and this happened in the 70s, they were already somewhat ahead by thinking about fuel efficiency, and we talk about this even more and more today. So you can go to the next slide. So on this next slide, in 1980, Corolla was the top selling car for Toyota. So it started out in 1966, and as you guys know today, even in 2019, they still sell the Toyota Corolla. And the Corolla, just looking at this slide from the 1966 to 2006, this is more of a mid-size car. It's a little bit smaller than what that Cressida was, but it's, again, they're making more fuel efficient cars, which is an advantage for Toyota. And you can go to the next slide. So in 1984, the new United Motor Manufacturing was an automobile manufacturing company in Fremont, California, and was jointly owned by General Motors and Toyota. And this was a joint venture for both Toyota and GM to learn about each other's market. So, you know, it looks like over the period of time, Toyota actually really studied the U.S. And different companies to really grasp what were they doing and how they can make things better. And also GM was learning from Toyota as well. So this is a joint venture. This wasn't just Toyota learning from GM and GM learning from Toyota. Both of them were able to learn from each other. However, Toyota, and I've read this, that Toyota actually during that time felt like they had a good grasp and they didn't really learn anything new. They observed what GM did, but it wasn't something new to Toyota. So you can go to this next slide, please. So some key events in the history as we move forward. In 1989, Toyota launched Lexus, and Lexus brand in North America. So that's like our luxury brand car. In 92, the first European car planted began producing in Britain. In 1997, the Prius which is the first mass-produced hybrid car, was launched. And a year later, Toyota takes majority stake in the mini vehicle maker. I guess it's the Datsun Motor Company. And in 1999, they hit a goal of producing 100 million Toyota vehicles in Japan. 2001, Toyota makes, and I'm sorry because it looks like your slide, I can't see all the way. Hold on for just a moment. Okay, in 2001, Toyota makes major stake in truck makers, and I guess this is Hindu Motor Limited. In 2003, Toyota makes 6.78 million vehicles, and now it overtakes Ford Motor Company in annual sales to become the world's #2 behind General Motors. So several years later, now I think Ford is having to look to see what Toyota is doing. And then, of course, 2005, Toyota makes major stakes in Fuji Heavy Industries, makers of Subaru cars for corporations and vehicle technologies developed and used in the U.S. factories. And we have another slide. If you could go to the next slide. So one thing that, and I can remember this because it really hasn't been that long ago, but a key event for Toyota is in 2009 and 2010, Toyota began to experience issues with safety. So what happened for Toyota, and this is just one example, a California Highway Patrol officer, his name is Mark Saylor, and 3 family members were killed in a high-speed crash caused by the unintended acceleration of the car. And what happened was it was the floor mats would actually get stuck and actually push the accelerator down and cause it to accelerate. After the accident, Toyota eventually recalled millions of vehicles, and they were involved in one of the largest recalls in automotive history. And so in order to combat that from that 2009 and 2010, because they paid a lot of money out. They had to not only pay it out to those families, but they also had to pay it out to other government organizations. However, in 2010, they knew this is a problem we need to address, and they introduced what they call Toyota Care Service, which is not only a 24-hour roadside assistance, but if you're purchasing a brand new Toyota, you can take it in and they will cover the maintenance, and they do all the checks and balances because they had to figure out a strategy to kind of regroup from all of what happened, because several people in that 2009, 2010, there was several people that were killed and severely injured due to the acceleration. And initially, Toyota did not want to admit fault, and they were fined millions of dollars for not actually saying that it was their fault and making the correct, appropriate adjustments. But they later on did. And that case with Mark Saylor is one of the examples of when they decided to actually take ownership and try to fix and do the recall. And with his case, they didn't give you the amount, but it was an undisclosed amount that the family just actually settled with Toyota for. And if we can go to the next slide. So products and services. So initially, when I began, I told you that Toyota actually, that name was actually used by his father, Kichiro's father, and he actually had like a weaving and loom company. So we put a example of the sewing machine there. And then Toyota has numerous vehicles. They also have boats and yachts. And I found this interesting too, the materials handling equipment, like they had lift trucks and pallet trucks, storage equipment. So they actually, when I thought of Toyota, I thought of just basic vehicles. but I later learned that they did a lot of textile machinery as well as some of the boats and yachts and other items that they produce, because it stemmed from his father, and then of course it went on to be the automaker. So we can go to the next slide. So the mission. So the mission for Toyota is through our supplier diversity process, Toyota will continue to generate business opportunities that position diverse entrepreneurs for economic sustainability, yield competitive advantages for our company, and deliver exceptional mobility experience for our customers through innovation. And we can go to the next slide. And so now we're at Abel's model here. And Abel's model basically is kind of giving you the who, how, and what concept. And we can go to our next slide here. So the Abel's model, the who, the what, and the how. So the what we just did is, why is this important? Toyota is addressing needs for customers that need transportation and fuel-efficient vehicles. And the who can be your public, your commercial industries, as we already said when we named the products, and also they are using this for pleasure and work and business. So it could be anybody that desires transportation. And then we address issues on how will Toyota meet those needs. And I just put a brief statement that they have designed fuel-efficient vehicles, hybrids, and are creating a push for electric cars in the near future. So they have to continue to innovate in order to meet the needs of the customers. And we can go to our next slide. And the next slide is their vision. So Toyota will lead the way to the future of mobility, enriching lives around the world with the safest and most responsible ways of moving people. Through our commitment to quality, constant innovation, and respect for the planet, we aim to exceed exceptions and be rewarded with a smile. And so that vision goes back to innovation and safety and being responsible and trying to exceed what the customers' wants and needs are. So this is the history and the background of Toyota. And the next slide you will see, I think, is Adrian, that will be actually presenting the environmental assets.
Okay, in the next few slides, we're going to discuss some of the environmental factors that affect Toyota. You can go to the next slide. Toyota is in the consumer cyclical sector and is ranked in the top 10 of reliable car brands. Volkswagen, Nissan, and Toyota are the top 3 manufacturers. This first chart shows the revenue that has been generated throughout North America and the world during 2019. On this graph, the revenue is reported in Japanese yen. 1,000 Japanese yen is actually equal to $9.31 in American dollars. And the top countries are Japan with 16.6 trillion yen, or 153.3 billion US dollars. North America with 10.8 trillion yen, or 99.7 billion US dollars, and Asia and Europe. And the second chart shows Toyota's vehicle sales between the fiscal year of 2013 and the fiscal year of 2019 in 1,000 units by the region, and North America is the company's largest target market. Next slide. The next few slides, we're going to talk about some of the general economic indicators. You can go to the next slide. Okay, here we're going to discuss GDP growth rates. The countries chosen here are China, United States, Canada, Euro area, which is 17 countries, and Japan. These countries were chosen because they are the top sellers of Toyota products. And real GDP is GDP that is given in constant prices and refers to the volume level of GDP. Constant price estimates are obtained by expressing values of all goods and services that are produced in 1 year and are expressed in terms of a base period. The forecast is computed based on an assessment of economic climate in certain countries. In this case, they are China, US, Canada, Euro area, Japan, and the world economy. And it is measured by the growth rates compared to the previous year. There is actually a direct correlation between the size of a country's GDP product and its automotive industry. GDP accounts for the consumption, investments, net exports, and government spending during a given time period. And when economies are growing, there are more vehicles produced and sold. The chart above shows that China's growth rate has been decreasing, US is decreasing, Canada is increasing, Euro area is increasing, and Japan is expected to increase in 2020. China also has the largest GDP and is experiencing continued growth. Japan has been on a moderate recovery due to improvements in employment and income. The auto industry contributes 3 to 3.5% to GDP because when sales are up, more vehicles are being built, which means that more raw materials are being consumed. It also spends money on healthcare, manufacturing, equipment, and advertising. And when GDP growth is strong, firms hire more workers, pay higher salaries and wages, which leads to more spending by consumers on goods and services. Next slide. This chart is similar to the one before and shows that all countries are expected to grow their real GDP. Growing real GDP will present the opportunity for Toyota to improve revenues by growing its business. Next slide. This chart shows the GDP per capita, which measures the economic output of a country that accounts for the number of people. It divides the GDP by the total population, and it is considered the best measurement of a country's standard of living and tells how prosperous a country feels to each of its citizens. And as we can see from the chart, GDP per capita is increasing, which should help the number of cars being sold to increase. Next slide. This slide shows interest rates and how they affect what people are willing to purchase. Over the last couple of years, interest rates have been rising, which means that people are less likely to purchase a new car. But over the last year, these interest rates have started to decrease, which means that more people are likely to purchase cars. And consumers can access credit to make necessary purchases and plan their finances. And when there is an increase in interest rate, a person is less likely to take out a loan. And if less people are willing to take out a loan to purchase a vehicle, this will negatively affect Toyota. Next slide. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, prices for new cars were 2.3% higher in 2019 versus 2000, which is a 345.32 difference in value. And between 2000 and 2019, cars experienced an average inflation rate of 0.12% per year. While calculating the cost of a $15,000 car in the year 2000, the same price car would cost $15,345.32 in 2019. Next slide. Okay, the next few slides we're going to discuss consumer economic indicators. Next slide. The first graph here is unemployment rates. These are measured in numbers of unemployed people as a percentage of the labor force, and the labor force is considered the total number of unemployed people plus those in civilian employment. And as we can see in the chart, unemployment rates are decreasing, which will help Toyota and the auto industry because more people have jobs and are making money and are willing to purchase new vehicles. Next slide. Okay, these next few slides are going to discuss the breakdown of the markets and the different sources of demand. These graphs show the working age population and the young population. Working age population is ages 15 to 64, and the young population are people that are younger than 15. As the chart shows, working age population is starting to decrease, and the young population is also starting to decrease. And with the working age population, we can see the number of vehicles sold to decrease because people aren't purchasing as many. Next slide. This chart shows the elderly population, which is ages 65 or older. And this segment of the population really doesn't contribute a lot to auto sales. Next slide. This is a graph on consumer confidence. Consumer confidence provides an indication of future developments of household consumption and saving based upon answers regarding their expected financial situation. Any indicator above 100 signals a boost in the consumer's confidence towards future economic situations in which they will save less money and spend more money on major purchases in the next 12 months. Values below 100 indicate a pessimistic attitude toward future developments in the economy, which may result in a tendency to save more and consume less. This chart shows that China and the US both have indicators above 100, which means that they are more likely to make major purchases like vehicles over the next 12 months. Japan has a factor below 100, which means that they are less likely to make major purchases and can cause vehicle sales to decrease. Next slide. This chart shows household spending, which is the amount of final consumption expenditures made by resident households to meet their everyday needs. These everyday needs include food, clothing, housing, energy, transportation, durable goods, health costs, and leisure activities. This amount normally contributes 60% of the GDP and is an essential variable for economic analysis of demand. And as we can see from the chart, US and China are spending more money to meet their everyday needs. Next slide. Household debt is all liabilities of households that require payment of interest or principal by households to creditors at fixed dates in the future, and it includes loans and accounts payable. This is an indicator that is measured as a percentage of net household disposable income, and Canada currently has the highest household debt. And next, I will turn it over to Samantha.
I think it's my turn. This is Christian. Well, I'm going to be presenting the industry structure and competition. Next slide, please, Samantha. Okay, the graph shows that the list of countries by motor vehicle production. The graph shows that very few vehicles are manufactured in the United States. Most vehicles are manufactured from China, with design and research and development centers worldwide, as well as numerous assembly plants. Toyota builds their vehicles to suit each individual market. They have many research and development centers from around the world, including United States, Europe, Japan, China, and Asia Pacific. They currently manufacture vehicles at plants domestically. Toyota's production is centered in its hometown of Toyota City. Next slide, please. Okay. Based on the global car and light commercial vehicle sales by region in 2018, the strong results in India, Brazil, Russia, and Southeast Asia offset stalling sales in Europe, China, and in the United States. In 2018, India was able to become the world's fourth largest car market as it was able to outsell Germany. India's growth is projected to continue over the next few years, with it expected to become the third largest market by 2021. Toyota also saw an increase in sales during 2018 of their passenger vehicles. Toyota posted a growth of 8.54% in India when compared to previous years. That's fine. You can go ahead and change it.
Sorry.
That's fine. SUVs in this chart, you can see that SUVs drove sales in the global market. There has been a continuous increase in demand for SUVs. Toyota is increasing their SUVs innovation by adding options that brings value towards their customers. Toyota's SUV models are being equipped with touchscreen navigation or rear seat entertainment systems that offer tons of gas. They also offer tons of gas and hybrid trims to choose from, and plenty of room for cargo. Most of their newer SUVs carry the Toyota Safety Sense package, which includes pre-collision system with pedestrian detection, lane departure alert, auto high beams, and dynamic radar cruise control. These features are designed to work together to support the driver's awareness and decision-making on the road detection. These features are designed to work together to support the driver's awareness and decision-making on the road and help address three key areas of accident protection: preventing and mitigating frontal collisions, keeping drivers within their lane, and enhancing road safety during nighttime driving. Toyota is providing the consumer new options that help them drive more safely, which persuades the consumer to choose the Toyota SUV rather than a competitor's SUV. Next slide, please. This is the BCG matrix. The BCG matrix is used to evaluate the strategic position of the business brand portfolio and its potential. It is used to classify the company into four categories based on the industry attractiveness, growth rate of the industry, and competitive position. Based on the BCG matrix of the vehicles that Toyota manufactures that are considered high market growth and of high relative market share includes their Lexus, Prius Hybrid, and their Land Cruiser SUV. The automobiles that carry high market growth and low relative market share includes the Scion, Camry, Corolla, diesel engine cars for India, small cars for India, and more SUVs and MPVs. The vehicles that achieve a high relative market share and a low market share includes the Camry, Innova, and their small cars. Lastly, the vehicles that have a low market growth and a low relative market share includes the Celica and Tundra. There are also declining markets in the UK and Europe. Toyota is likely to innovate their existing vehicles, including the Toyota Prius or their luxury vehicles and Land Cruiser SUV, since they provide a high market growth and a high relative market share. Next slide, please. Now we begin discussing Toyota's five forces analysis. There is a strong competitive rivalry and competition. Toyota is continuously dealing with the threat of competition. As the rivalry among the existing companies intensifies, This will decrease prices and decrease the overall profits of the industry. Automotive firms tend to be aggressive against each other in terms of factors as innovation and marketing. The competition that Toyota faces has overall affected the long-term profits of the organization, since they have to lower their prices in order to maintain the competitive advantage. There are also a few ways that Toyota can tackle intense rivalry, which includes building a sustainable differentiation in building scale so that it can compete better with the competition. Their bargaining power of buyers is very strong. There are many automotive manufacturers that exist. Toyota has been able to build build a large base of customers. This benefits Toyota in many ways. This will reduce the bargaining power of buyers. Plus, it will provide an opportunity to the firm to streamline its sales and production process. Toyota rapidly innovates their products. New products will also reduce the defection of the existing customers of Toyota to its competitors. Next slide, please. Their bargaining power of suppliers is a weak force. There is an existing threat of new entrants in the automotive industry. New entrants bring in new innovation, new ways of doing things, and this puts pressure towards Toyota Motor Corporation through lowering pricing strategy and reducing some of their costs. There is a high cost in establishing, maintaining, and growing a new firm in the industry. This reduces the threats of new entrants. This is considered one of the least concerns of Toyota in growing its business and maintaining its position as one of the top automotive manufacturers in the world. It is very hard to achieve economies of scale for small companies. Toyota is continuously managing all of these challenges so that they can have the competitive advantage. There are many ways that Toyota is tackling the threat of new entrants. They are innovating their products and services that gives their customers a reason to buy from Toyota. They are building economies to scale so that they can lower their fixed cost per unit. Lastly, they are building capacities and spending money on research and development. Next slide, please. Okay, their threat of new entrants is a weak force. There is an existing threat of new entrants in the automotive industry. I'm sorry. Can you go back one slide? I think I skipped something. Yeah, the threat of substitutes or substitution is a moderate force. Substitutes negatively affect Toyota's business by competing with the company's products. It is relatively easy for customers to shift from Toyota to substitutes. So the substitutes of Toyota include public transportation or bicycles. In bigger cities, many people use public transportation since it is more convenient and less costly. Toyota must address the threat of substitute products by making their products more accessible, affordable, and convenient. Their bargaining power of suppliers is also a weak force. Powerful suppliers in consumer goods sector use their negotiation power to extract higher prices from the firms in the automotive industry. The impact of higher supply bargaining power is that it lowers the profitability of Toyota. Toyota has found numerous ways to take on the high bargaining power of suppliers. Toyota is building an efficient supply chain with multiple suppliers that have found different materials that can be used as a substitute. If the price of the material increases, they can still have another durable product. Next slide, please. I've already discussed. Okay. There are four main competitors, which includes Mercedes-Benz, Ford, BMW, and Honda. This adds to the other competitors that Adrian discussed before. Mercedes-Benz. Toyota has many competitors, including Mercedes-Benz and Ford. Mercedes-Benz makes their vehicles with internal combustion engine and pre-safe technology over the period of years. Each vehicle that is produced by Mercedes-Benz is built with a concern of safety. Due to their continuous innovation and quality, Mercedes-Benz is considered one of the top Toyota competitors. BMW's main strength is in technology. Their products are advanced every time. It has a huge product portfolio in SUVs, sports cars, and luxury cars. As BMW is a popular brand in the automotive sector, it is considered one of the top Toyota competitors. Ford. Ford has invested heavily in their research and development. Similar to the strategy of Toyota, Ford vehicles improve the performance of vehicles like safety, fuel efficiency, and customer satisfaction. Due to their innovative technologies and great market share, Ford is considered one of the top Toyota competitors. And lastly, Honda. Every vehicle that is manufactured by Honda is powered with high technology to meet the demand of technology. Honda has a product line of about 100 car types and other vehicles such as scooters and motorbikes. Next slide, please. From the chart above, we see that in the year 2018, Toyota was considered one of the top-selling car brands around the world. Toyota was able to lead the industry by selling the most vehicles around the globe. The model that Toyota was able to sell the most is the Corolla. The Toyota Corolla has a tremendous amount of driver appeal. It includes many options that help the driver safely navigate to their destination. The Corolla has included a pre-collision system that is very advanced when compared to other sedans. The vehicle also features a wholly integrated backup camera, power moonroof, and Entune. Entune provides the ability to access entertainment and navigation from the single user's friendly screen. Next slide, please. Toyota has many critical success factors. First, we'll talk about production and manufacturing facilities. Toyota has many manufacturing plants that are located around the world. These plants assemble or manufacture automobiles for local markets. Toyota follows the just-in-time production and lean manufacturing, which has contributed towards their success. Toyota has been recognized before as the industry leader in manufacturing and production. They have extensive research and development. The values of research and development of Toyota are based on quality, durability, reliability, value for money, environmentally safe, and convenience. A system that Toyota has been developing for the past years is known as Guardian. This driver assist system is designed to go around an impeding crash or accelerate out of the path of an oncoming vehicle on its own. The system is still being developed in 2019. The CEO of Toyota mentioned that the technology is still a few years away until it will be used. Toyota wants to ensure that the system exceeds the expectation of their customers. Their innovative activities. Toyota started the Innovative International Multi-Purpose Vehicle Plan to optimize worldwide manufacturing and supply method for multi-purpose automobiles and pickup trucks. The company was trying to keep up with demand in more than 142 countries worldwide. Capable workforce and management philosophy. Since Toyota implemented the Toyota Way 2001, this was an expression of principles and and conduct guiding principles that all Toyota workforces should hold. The principles and beliefs are continuous improvement and respect for people. This summarizes its principal values and accomplishments. Guiding principle with subsequent 5 principles: challenge, go and see, improvement, teamwork, and respect. Distribution and marketing activities. Marketing and distribution efforts of Toyota have focused on the positive experiences of ownership, automobile quality, meeting diverse needs, high quality sales and services, and close involvement with customers. The global marketing division formed the Toyota Way in sales and marketing. Next slide, please. This is the general industry life cycle. The industry life cycle depicts the various stages where businesses operate, progress, prospect, and slump within an industry. An industry life cycle consists of 5 stages, including introduction, growth, shakeout, maturity, and decline. These stages can last for different amounts of time. Some could be months or years. Next slide. The graph above illustrates Toyota car sales from the fiscal year of 2014 to the fiscal year of 2019. Worldwide, Toyota sold around 9.6 million vehicles in the fiscal year that ended in March 2019. Toyota is currently in the mature stage of the life cycle. At the maturity stage, the company in the industry is well established. They develop strategies to become a dominant player and reduce rivalry. Toyota sales have remained steady. They neither increase nor decrease drastically. As the industry approaches maturity, the industry life cycle curve becomes noticeably flatter, indicating a slow growth. Toyota continues to compete with their competitors. Next slide. Now, Samantha.
Yep. All right. So now we're going to speak on the capabilities analysis. And first, the financial capabilities. So the first financial capability we're going to discuss is the sales. This graph shows the Toyota sales from 2010 to 2019 in millions of dollars. By this slide, you can see that the trend has mostly been upward, which is good. However, there have been some dips in sales. For instance, in 2010 through 2012, you can see that sales were low and got even lower. Higher gas prices, this can be attributed to the auto industry crisis of 2008 through 2010, as well as the 2000s energy crisis. Higher gas prices caused consumers to not want to purchase gas guzzlers, which hurt Toyota because they had a shortage of fuel-efficient vehicles. But another reason for a decline in sales was the Toyota's vehicle recalls that Donella discussed earlier in the history section. So you can see that these issues didn't last long for Toyota, and in 2013, sales surged and Toyota became the most valuable car brand in 2016. The operating profit margin measures how much profit a company makes on $1 of sales after paying for a variable cost of production, such as wages and raw materials, but before paying for interest or tax. It is calculated by dividing a company's operating profit by its net sales. So you can see that in 2012 through 2014, operating profit margin skyrocketed more, and in the recent years it's actually been declining, which is not good because that's meaning that Toyota is not making as much profit on each dollar that they're selling. The next slide shows return on equity, which is calculated by dividing net income by shareholders' equity. It is a measure of how effectively management is using a company's assets to create profits. You may wonder what a good or bad return on equity is, because I wondered the same thing. Good or bad equity depends on what is normal for the industry. If you are unsure of what is normal for the industry, a good estimate to use is the long-term average of the S&P 500, which is 14% as an acceptable ratio and anything less than 10% as poor. Investopedia stated that as of January 2015, the average return on equity for the automotive industry was approximately 17%. So you can see by this graph that this means Toyota's return on equity is bad compared to the industry's average, because they're only up to 14% in 2016 and even at 10% in 2019. Granted, it has been much closer in recent years than it was back in 2010, but it is fluctuating. So they could still use some work to get up to the industry average. This is a chart that shows Toyota's return on equity compared to other companies within the same industry. So as we said a while ago, Toyota's return on equity is lower than a lot of companies in the auto industry, which makes sense because if you look at this, Ferrari has a 69.49% return on equity, but then again, Tesla has a negative 13.94%. So I'd say Toyota is somewhere closer to the middle of the spectrum, but still has a long way to go. There are several common leverage ratios, and leverage ratios look at how much capital comes in the form of debt or assets and the ability of a company to meet its financial obligations. The debt to equity ratio, as shown on the screen, is calculated by taking the total liabilities and dividing it by the total shareholders' equity. Typically, a debt to equity ratio over 2 is risky for an investor. A high debt to equity ratio means that the company has been aggressive in financing its growth with the debt. Toyota reduced its leverage after the Great Recession due to an increase in equity and capital, which is good. And you can see by the chart here that the leverage has dropped in recent years, and it's pretty low right now. So it's closer to 1.55%, which is under 2, so it shouldn't be. It's probably still moderately risky, but not too risky. Another leverage ratio is the debt to assets ratio, which defines the total amount of debt relative to assets. You calculate the debt to assets ratio by adding short-term and long-term debt and then dividing it by the total assets. The higher the ratio, the higher the degree of leverage, or the higher the risk. So by this graph, you can see that over 60% of Toyota's assets are financed by creditors. But again, you can see that the ratio has been declining, which is good because that means that they are not using as much debt. This graph shows the units sold in thousands. So by this graph, you can note that North America, the red line, it has surpassed Japan, and it surpassed them back in 2012 and has continued to be higher than them. It has 5 segment leading cars, from the compact Corolla to the mid-sized Camry, minivan Sienna, small pickup Tacoma. It's got some more a Prius. The success of Toyota stems from offering dependable, inoffensive, and reasonably priced cars. This graph shows net revenue by region, and it is shown in millions of dollars. It was noted on the last slide that North America is the leader in sales. However, on this slide, notice that Japan has a higher net revenue than North America does. There could be different reasons for this. On the next slide, we may see one of the reasons, but I was thinking about it earlier. One of the reasons could be because Christian, I think he mentioned that Toyota does a lot of its manufacturing in Japan, So transporting the vehicles from Japan to North America and to other countries would involve a lot of high transportation costs, I'm sure, which would cut down on their revenue. Whereas there wouldn't be as high transportation costs in Japan, which means that they could get more revenue per vehicle that they sell. This is a chart that compares the Japanese yen to the US dollar. You can see the exchange rate has declined. Currently, 1 yen is equal to 0.0092 US dollars. A strong yen refers to a state where the relative value of the yen against other currencies is high. In other words, when the yen is strong, more units of other currencies can be exchanged per unit of yen. Conversely, a weak yen refers to a state when the relative value of the yen against other currencies is low. So having the exchange rate from Japan to the United States, that could be part of the reason why, even though sales are higher in North America, that revenue in Japan is higher than North America. Next, we will talk about the functional capabilities. Toyota has a distinctive competence that is called the Toyota Production System. It has 2 conceptual pillars. The first is just-in-time manufacturing. The basis of this is making only what is needed, only when it is needed, and only in the amount that is needed. It allows the manufacturing process to be regulated by natural supply and demand. The second pillar is Jidoka, or automation, which is automation with a human touch. Jidoka was developed by Sakichi Toyoda. He invented a textile loom that stopped automatically when any thread broke. It provides machines and operators the ability to detect when an abnormal condition has occurred and immediately stop the process, which helps with quality control. The purpose of the Toyota Production System is to identify and reduce 3 things from optimal allocation of resources. The 3 things are Muri, Mura, and Muta. Muri is overburden, and examples of this are tired and stressed workers. Muri can lead to bigger problems such as illness, low morale, and customer complaints. Mura is inconsistency. An example of this would be an uneven number of orders by season or day of the week. And Mura can also be found when workers have not received proper training to support other shift demands. And last but not least, Muta is waste, which is pretty self-explanatory. And this is one of Toyota's distinctive competences. Japanese managerial practices are another functional capability of Toyota. They have no tolerance for defects. At Toyota, a worker who detects any defect may stop the whole production line. Therefore, any task or component of a task is crucial for success. Even a small failure will cause the need for a system overhaul. Another practice is process improvement, meaning there's always room for improvement. The process can continuously be revamped. Japanese managerial practices believe in on-the-job training. A person can really learn a lot when they are actually performing the work and in the atmosphere while they are learning. And I know that firsthand. I learn better whenever I'm doing a new task or doing a new job if I can actually be hands-on rather than if somebody just shows me. So that's a good skill to have. Multi-skilled employees, knowledge sharing, and talent distribution are also vital. Japan believes in a homogeneous workforce, while the U.S. believes in a heterogeneous workforce. Japan believes that all of the employees should know how to perform each job. In other words, everyone knows the same things. In the U.S., we believe in being cross-trained, but for the most part, everyone has a particular job and purpose. However, these distinct features are not specific to Japanese firms. They stem from lean manufacturing, which Japanese firms have developed as their competitive advantage. To go a little bit more in depth about lean manufacturing, we can discuss the just-in-time system of production. There are 3 huge concepts to just-in-time. Production scheduling is one. The ability to match raw materials to the production schedule is vital in reducing waste. Quality control is vital in reducing inconsistency. It allows companies to produce high-quality products faster by more efficient manufacturing. Last, inventory control helps reduce resource waste. These things keep costs low and increase profit margins. It allows companies to maintain competitive advantage over vendors and be flexible to respond to environmental uncertainties, change competitive positions, or even transform the nature of the industry. Next, we'll talk about organizational capabilities. The organizational structure of Toyota is a type of 3D matrix structure. In 2013, Toyota implemented a new organization structure because of the complaints about slow response time dealing with the 2009 recalls and safety issues. Now the company employs a hierarchical structure which supports its business goals. And you can see in the top right-hand corner the company hierarchy. It is a divisional structure that is strongly centralized in nature. So Toyota is broken up into 3 divisions: the global hierarchy, the geographic division, and the product-based division. The global headquarters is in Japan. This is where all final decisions are made on all matters. The global headquarters gives the final say or verdict on any situation, and all businesses must report here. The geographic division is made of the following divisions: North America, Japan, East Asia, Europe, the Middle East, Africa, Oceania, China, Asia, Caribbean, and Latin America. These divisions have to report to headquarters, but they can make decisions specific to each region. The product-based division is broken into Lexus International, Toyota No. 1, Toyota No. 2, and the Unit Center. The product-based division supports the development of brands and product lines. Toyota No. 1 focuses on operations in North America, Japan, and Europe. Toyota No. 2 focuses on operations in all other regions. The Unit Center is responsible for transmission, engine, and other related operations. Benefits of the structure are that Toyota can be more flexible and decisions can be made based on regional markets and culture, and they have a quicker response which satisfies the customers. Toyota's organizational capabilities include the ability to compete based on cost and price, organizational learning, partnerships and alliances, and global networks. A company that thinks it has nothing else to learn is set up to fail. So Toyota must continuously learn in order to advance. Toyota utilizes information gained through each of its individual employees and creates policies and programs that will lead to better results. A problem is only really a problem if you are not willing to work and learn from it and try to find a solution. Toyota facilitates learning and facing the problems head-on to learn from them and fix them. Toyota knows that in order for it to continue to being great and to work to be even better, they must continue to deliver products that will make the customers happy. International expansion led to the establishment of a network of manufacturing facilities that are strategically located, which helps Toyota be competitive. An example of an alliance that Toyota has is their alliance with Panasonic. Panasonic helps Toyota access batteries that they can use in electric and hybrid vehicles. The Toyota Way is aimed at maximizing production efficiency and minimizing losses, which gives the company the ability to lower costs and selling prices. Is Ventura, did he ever make it on here?
I am here, if you can hear me.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Good.
All righty. Disclaimer, I'm outside in my vehicle because I have no power, so y'all bear with me. We're going to deal with this section of Toyota's goals and strategic objectives. First is Toyota financial goals. Toyota creates the vast dominant part of its income from its cars business, which can be additionally partitioned into discrete subsegments depending upon the brand and geographic core interest. Altogether, the organization sold just shy of 9 million vehicles in 2019. The organization likewise acquires income from its budgetary administration's branch that's through Third, A Lot, Litter Wing, and spots like on various businesses. Since its establishing, Toyota has pursued what it alludes as to the 5 main principles of Toyota, a lot of qualities and rules which illuminate all organization choices. This first slide that we're looking at is the a 5-year projection of goals for Toyota. It's in terms of millions. In 2019, as Adrian and Samantha have both covered the majority of these numbers in their financial reports, the Toyota sold 302,250 million in 2019 and 295,000 in 2020. Projection for 2024 is 307 million and 500,000. They have in 2019, the operating profit margin was 8.2%, 2020 8.1%, and 2024 8.4%. The ORI, which was covered earlier, and the ORE was covered earlier. So in 2024, there are slight increases in those areas. The ORI increased to 8.5%, ORE 16%. In 2024, it is projected that their long-term debt would also increase, and the equity likewise will increase to 280,000, and the capital will increase as well. And the leverage is actually lower in 2024 based upon projections. And as we go forward, we will see where where Toyota gets financial forecasting from. Next slide, please. This is just a graph of the information that was just presented. Next slide. This slide is represents Toyota net revenue for a 5-year period. The average revenue per Toyota vehicle has stayed relatively stable in the last few years. In 2010, the figure stood out around 28 million, while in 2016 it was around 27. This declined to 26,575 in 2017 and 26,480 in 2018. It increased to 27,664 in 2019. The average revenue per Toyota vehicle equals revenue of Toyota Automotive Division divided by Toyota number of Toyota brand vehicles sold globally. Next slide. This slide covers information, again, that Adrian and Samantha both covered: net income and return on equity. Next slide. Okay, as I said earlier, those projections, forecast rationale. Forecast rationale come from various different areas. It is based on Toyota pricing strategy to improve average transaction price. It is based on refreshed product portfolio resulting in higher prices. It's based on consumer preferences for SUVs and crossover cars. Improving economy will lead to higher dealer inventories, glut of used cars on the market. The exchange rate risk in yen to the dollar can impact net revenues earned on Toyota vehicles as well. The intense competition to keep pricing low. Improving economy will lead to higher dealer inventories. Quality improvements to command higher prices. Superior quality of Toyota vehicles can command higher prices. And in addition to more features and technology upgrades can increase prices in the future. this is what the forecast rationale is based on for those projections. And the market is holding steady, so it is likely that Toyota will continue to increase in its revenue. Next slide, please. This slide is basically the auto market share based on a study done in 2014, and as per the recent research done on the market share of various automotive companies, Toyota has the third highest market share in America after General Motors and Ford Motors. Next slide. This slide speaks of the growth rate of Toyota compared to the industry. As for the growth rate of Toyota Motors, it has shown significant sustainability in its market growth rate compared to Ford and General Motors. It shows how effectively Toyota is executing strategy. Ford and GM have been all over the place while Toyota has stayed pretty consistent. And as you look at these numbers and listen to what I just presented, when we getting to the competitive goals of Toyota, it will explain this slide further. Next slide. Competitive goals. Toyota is an automotive company that has the goal of sustainable growth by providing a quality product to its customers. For market growth and obtaining market share, Toyota has some basic goals and strategy. It has a mixed segmenting and marketing processing. The mixed segment and marketing positioning is a mix of various market segments such as demographics and geographics and behavior segmentations that Toyota use. The company uses to differentiate targeting strategies to satisfy different customer segments. Apart from it, the company uses an effective marketing mix strategy and sets its visions to provide innovation and safe rides around the world. 2, they have a global presence to enjoy global market share. Toyota sells its products in more than 190 countries. The company manufactures automobiles and its spare parts through more than 50 overseas countries to achieve market shares. The company provides world-class products at a low price and a very effective quality control method. 3, they perform better than competitors. Toyota has an intensively competitive market where it has to face the competition with General Motors and Ford Motors for its market shares and growth rate. To ensure its survival and growth, the company focuses. I lost my light, hold on. To ensure its survival and growth, the company focuses on innovation and product portfolio. The concept of Jaduka, which means immediately stopping manufacturing and any quality-related problem arises, and serving product as per the need of a different market segment. 4, introduce innovative products and technology to obtain market share and growth rate. Toyota has significantly sustained market growth and market share. The very reason for the same is its innovation products and its competitive features. The company has goals to continue this attribute of it. Thus, to attain market share and growth, the company has established some benchmarks and conducted marketing analysis regularly. Next slide. In terms of long-term growth, Toyota has several options available. Adopt sustainable practices. An effective market position means that the company has developed efficient marketing strategies. The firm should then focus on other important factors that will promote this success. The company has to have goals of sustainable practice that protects the environment, This would include green marketing, green promotion strategies, and developing of electric cars, in which Toyota is currently have a campaign to be finished by 2020. They're building new manufacturers and things of that nature to upfit their cars and make them more green friendly. 2, invest in social responsibility. Social responsibility implies that they're investing in social welfare. The company has integrated social responsiveness in their operations, and to build a lasting brand positioning, they have enabled this by sponsoring programs within the community. They have trained some members of the community on essential basic skills and giving consideration for employment opportunities to these members of the community where it operates. 3, they have developed strategies for customer retention as well. They have customer service relation management platforms and social media, e-commerce platforms, and other platforms to improve customer relations and establish that desired retention. 2, they integrate ethical practices, which ensure the company offers quality products and services based on moral standards within the system. The ethical practices that they utilize build a positive reputation, which is key to sustainable and long-term growth for Toyota and the competitive automotive industry. Next slide. Strategic objectives. The generic strategy of Toyota Corporation essentially is the combination of cost leadership and a broad differentiation strategy. The cost leadership strategy encompasses minimizing the cost of operations at Toyota Corporation's various assemblies and plants. This strategy also includes minimizing the selling expenses as well in order to increase the revenue of the company. The Toyota Corporation is also pursuing the generic strategic goal of minimizing production costs in order to realize cost leadership in the automotive industry. Toyota Motor Corporation is using just-in-time manufacturing method, Toyota production system, and this method has enabled Toyota to minimize waste, reduce inventory costs, and respond to demand changes in time. Therefore, the company has been realizing business efficiency over the years and will continue to do so. The other strategy is the broad differentiation strategy demands Toyota Corporation to come up with various products and business models that are unique in the automotive industry. This generic strategy primarily aims at improving the competitiveness of Toyota Motor Corporation in the automotive industry. Innovation is another strategic goal at the firm. It is currently pursuing. This goal is aimed at addressing the broad differentiation aspects of generic strategy. The firm believes that through innovation, it will be able to develop attractive and unique products that can meet the needs and emerging customer preferences in all market segments. Next slide. Intended changes in financial and competitive results. Strategic objectives aim equals bringing positive financial results to the company. 1, to increase sales across markets. 2, becoming cost leaders and command market prices of automobiles. Competitive results, develop new products that would be competitive and gain competitive advantage in the automotive industry. The different strategic objectives of the Toyota Motor Corporation are aimed at bringing positive financial results to the company. They can make the company to increase its sales across the different markets. A factor that we can see is increased revenues. Equally, by becoming a cost leader in the market, Toyota will be able to command the market prices of automobiles, and this will make its financial results be stable. In regards to competitive results for pursuing the goal of differentiation, the firm will be able to develop new products that will be able to compete with those of the competitors. Thusly, it will be able to gain a competitive advantage over companies in the automotive industry. Next slide. Difficulty in achieving intended changes. They'll be facing financial difficulties, investing in research and development, product design lawsuit resulting from other companies stealing designs, stiff competition to become a cost leader. Nevertheless, the firm may experience these are strategic objectives, but first the firm may pause 1 second. Yes, the firm may encounter financial challenges to invest research and development, so as to differentiate its products from those of that competitor. Secondly, the firm product design may be copied by competitors and may be forced to engage in never-ending lawsuits in regards to that. And last, the firm may face stiff competition with its cost leaders such as Tesla Motors, as also keen in their operations and want to expand their operations across the world by developing electric vehicles as well. Next slide. Strategies of the Toyota Corporation. Here we're looking at the Porter genetic strategies. One of the strategies of Toyota is driven by generic strategies to compete with other competitors in the market. These strategies primarily focus on global growth. The generic strategy focuses on first, cost leadership strategy, which focuses on decreasing sales prices by reducing cost of operations. Toyota uses lean manufacturing and just-in-time manufacturing methods to obtain this. The just-in-time method used by the firm is also known as Toyota Production System. And this, the firm eliminates waste as it works on just-in-time basis, which also results in an organized flow of work, thereby increasing productivity. This in turn reduces the cost of production, thereby decreasing the selling cost of leading to added value to customers. The second is the broad differentiation strategy, which is driven by the firm pioneering in various technologies and improvement to promote innovations to target different markets. Next slide. Adolph Matrix. Another strategy undertaken by the firm focuses on intensive growth strategies, which are the actions undertaken by the firm for growth. We can understand this strategy on the basis of the Adolph Matrix. Market penetration. This strategy bolsters the business growth by coming to and pulling in more clients within the Toyota current markets. To penetrate the market to the best level possible, the product offering of the firm serves every segment of the market. This is in balance with the cost leadership strategy undertaken by the firm, as it helps increase its sales, leading to profits even if selling price on a vehicle is less and attractive to the customers. We're looking at market development. Toyota is a global player, so this strategy acts as a base for the same. The global growth is achieved by entering different markets and various segments to attract new customers and at the same time retain existing customers. Product development. This strategy also is a parallel to the other strategies adopted by the firm to enter new markets or new segments. It is essential for the firm to have a varied product line, meeting needs of different customers. To achieve this, the firm undertakes product development strategies, which is driven by innovation. The electric vehicle initiative was primarily an innovation to attract the environmentally friendly customers. This strategy also supported the differentiation strategy to offer unique and innovative products, e.g. the Toyota Prius. And lastly, diversification. Toyota has primarily concentrated on the automotive industry itself and hasn't diversified into other industries because of its stronghold in this industry. Next slide. Strategy contribution to goals achievement. We have market penetration, which will help achieve the goal of reducing costs and increasing market share in emerging economies and new markets. We have increased market share. We have product development strategy, which has allowed Toyota to become the global leader in research and development in the automotive sector. It has spent $4.4 of sales and product development. This has allowed Toyota to build technology with the electric Camry car and foray into Formula One of greater visibility of its new automotive technologies. Next slide. Implementation. Products, programs, and the future. As indicated by the 2019 Corporate Governance Report, the organization has chosen to concentrate on the present moment of cultivating advancements, especially in the territories of mechanical, automotive, and artificial intelligence, and on developing its business. The Toyota environmental challenges intend to lessen the negative effects of assembling and driving vehicles. However, much as could reasonably be expected, the test is made out of 6 individual difficulties crosswise over 3 zones: even better vehicles, even better assembly, and improving existence of networking. By 2020, new improved vehicles will be accessible beginning in China and going into the other markets. By 2025, each model in the Toyota and Lexus lineup will either be a committed charge model or have an energized alternative. By 2030, they will offer more than 5.5 million energized vehicles, including more than 1 million zero in animation vehicles. And by 2050, disposal of carbon monoxide discharges from its vehicles. Next slide. Major requirements to be met. The major requirements to be met is the emphasis on the research and development implementations for their projects for the future and developing the skills and the resources necessary for that. They will also need to continue success using the TPS and the just-in-time production. Likewise, they will need to maintain and strengthen current relationships and partnerships as well as gain new ones. Next slide. The conditions of facilitating and competing strategy implementations. Toyota Production System has enabled Toyota to minimize waste, to reduce inventory costs, and respond to demand and changes. Therefore, the company has been realizing business efficiency over the years and will continue to do so. Their financial burdens to invest in more research and development, competition with becoming a cost leader in safety of autonomous vehicles. Next slide. Success and recommendations. Toyota has been very successful. The Goldsboro consultants recommend that Toyota keep on doing what they have been doing in order to continue the success. It is financially stable. It uses sustainable practices. It is present in major markets. However, they should never get to the point where they get stagnant. There should always be continuous improvement and innovation. Thank you. Thank you guys for bearing with me on that. Turn it over to Adrian.
Okay, that wraps up our presentation.
Well, I mean, clearly you put a lot of work into this. It's very impressive. Actually, I've been impressed with all the Mount Olive students. I teach and I've taught at a lot of schools, and you guys are at the top. I have to tell you that. If I asked this amount of work, or from many of the other students, they would push back. They wouldn't do it. But you guys stepped up to the plate, did a really great presentation, including Ventura, who's sitting in a car someplace. Probably the neighbors are looking and saying, "What's this crazy guy doing?" But you didn't give up, and so. I mean, for me, this industry is interesting. I mean, the only thing that frightens me to a certain extent is that if we have to change, because if we're still buying SUVs and selling them in countries that have 1.4 billion people, well, I won't be here anymore probably. I'm older, but you guys will be toast because you'll be fried up with global warming. So, I mean, that's the real challenge, I think, for this whole automotive industry. I was listening to NPR, and they had Lutz on there, he's like a visionary, and he feels that within the next 10 years, we're going to have these autonomous vehicles, and we're going to move totally away from an ownership model to a use model. Like, you know, you call, like Uber, you get on your smartphone and you call up, this pod pulls up to wherever you are, and you get in the pod, and it drives you someplace. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but anyway, good job. And so if you could, please fill out your team evaluation, but I would be surprised if anybody got less than 100 or 10 points on that from the other team members, because clearly you guys worked well as a team. So, I mean, that's my comments. Do you have any closing remarks or questions?
Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Okay, cool. God bless, and good luck on your, well, this is your last course, so hold your head high when you guys walk across that stage and collect your degrees, and good luck with future endeavors. Bye.
Bye.